Welcome to the Peep Podcast. I'm your host, Nicole Maroc, and on this episode, we're continuing our conversation from episode 3. If you haven't listened to that one yet, I suggest you do, because it's the science part of this 2-part series. Tonight, we focus on the everyday paranormal aspect. I'm going to introduce you to my friend Terri, a woman who has had experiences related to technology since she was a child. She's also had other paranormal experiences that some of you, dear listeners, will be able to relate to. From ghosts to unexplained aerial phenomena, her stories run the gamut. For obvious reasons, she prefers to stay relatively anonymous, and that's okay. If you are willing to come on my show and share stories of your paranormal experiences, you can be as anonymous as you'd like. One of my goals is to create a safe space for experiencers to share their stories so that others can learn that the paranormal is more normal or common than they think. Let's dive in with Terri. Thank you, Terri, for joining me here on the Peep Podcast and sharing your experiences relating to how your emotional state can sometimes affect your technology. Would you like to tell me about the first time you recall this happening?
Sure. And thank you for asking me to do this. It's a little weird because I really didn't pinpoint my very first time until it was more of, just thinking back as I'm like, oh yeah, I remember when that happened. Oh yeah. I wonder if that was that too. I have to say, this is really weird. It was just going back in my mind right after I hit puberty, 11 years old. I know this is a big topic. I know. And that's, well, the reason why is because I've given it much thought. You know, you get to a certain age, you start thinking back and you're like, when did it really, let me pinpoint when the first time I started having weird electrical battery power energy related emotional connected incidents happen. And I was like, oh my gosh, 6th grade, right after I started puberty. And I'm like, I wonder if that has something to do with it. Who knows? Maybe my frequency was amplified or something. I don't know. But it would be a very interesting path to research. I'll say that. But yeah, I was 11 and Swatch watches, of course, were the big thing at the time. And I could not keep the battery in my Swatch watch alive. So I just got used to just having the dead Swatch watch. Because of course, at the time, it was more important to have the actual watch than it actually to keep time. So when I traced it back, it was something that specific. And I mean, the little things here and there. Then it became kind of a joke where us in the neighborhood, we would play outside. And it used to be like when the street lights came on, you would go home. But we would stay outside and play hide and seek. And it became a joke because people would say, Terri, go shut off the street lights. Because I could go and stand under. Yeah, I know, right? Because we would have like acorn wars and play tag. And, it was the time, throughout the entire neighborhood. And hide and go seek, and you kick the can, and still middle school around that, we were way different than kids are at that age now back then, and we were, they would say for me to do that jokingly, but I could go and stand under a street light and shut it off, and that I've had happen. I mean, it happens all the time. I know there's a name for that because I was curious not too long ago and I looked it up. I Googled it, but I don't remember what it is, but that was kind of just a funny thing to me. It used to happen to me in college. It used to happen to me in college all the time. It was a walking campus and of course night classes, etc. It would never fail. I'd walk under a street light and they would they would turn off, and it wouldn't be just one or a random one or just a specific one. It would be multiple. So it would be one, the next one, next one, next one. Well, those are the little things, but, first big thing that happened was I basically have a pattern for myself. And this is why it sticks out to me, not those little things. Every first day of every single job I have ever had, going back to when I was 16 years old, the power has gone out, or there has been a major electrical malfunctioning of something. Every
Wow.
single job. So now, granted, I haven't had that many jobs because I've been pretty, shoot, where we were in the same place for a very long time. I was there for almost 20 years. But that very first day, and of course, you're for your first day, you're trying to prove yourself, you're excited, especially for your first job. Now, granted, I didn't think about my very first job. When I was 16, I worked at the movie theater, and I'll never forget it because, of course, it was packed, like a Friday night. I'm all nervous, but I'm excited because I'm working with some of my friends as well. And it was just, super high energy. But it was relatively new theater at the time. And we were showing Batman, like the original Batman. So it was slam packed. And I think we had something else that was like a huge movie going on at the same time. But I just remember Batman for some reason sticks out. And I'm pretty sure it was Batman. The power went out. And it had never happened before. But I didn't think about that until later because my very next job that I had when I was in college was working at a major CD, music store, major music store, but it was one of the bigger ones.
Yeah.
Power went out the first day I started. And it was great. It was fun because, but then it dawned on me, I was like, gosh, this is the second like real job that I've had. And the power's out again on my first day. After I'd been there for like an hour or so. So,
was this at a mall or like a full-size mall or a strip center or?
It was actually a freestanding one, which is now an Advanced Auto Parts store.
Okay.
But yeah, that was, and it was fun though because it was my first day. So it's like as soon as it went out, then like this is the biggest thing is that it's just all of a sudden I was just immediately relaxed and we were all hanging out, and it's always the common thing is then like, oh, this never happens. This is weird. And it's not like it's storming or there's a weather pattern or there's a car accident. It's something that you just don't know why, but it happens. And, I'll never forget with the music store, we just sat on the counters and kind of bonded because they couldn't get the power on for like 4 hours, which was insane.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it was a standalone building. The movie theater, they got it on a little bit more quickly. But then I started out, my first, I'm calling it my big girl job. And at the time we were in the basement of the building and had the tour of the upstairs part and whatnot. And of course, working in that medium, it's, having emotional highs and lows that affect power on some level or technology, probably, with my career choice of working in television was probably a really, weird thing to have. But we were down there.
Maybe just a little risky.
Just a little bit. And it's funny because I often wonder, hey, it's amazing. I don't short out my phones. I don't affect phones. I don't affect laptops. I don't affect monitors, things like that. Hair dryers, things that plug in. I don't have those. I don't, make light bulbs explode or, there's nothing like that. But the weird thing is that it happened then. And it was the first time they had ever had a power outage downstairs. And then my very first project was transferring segments from a reel-to-reel, old-fashioned, I know you remember those, reel-to-reel machine to an M2 tape. And I killed the reel-to-reel.
Oh, no.
And that had never happened. And it was funny because the girl who was my supervisor at the time, she left to go get lunch and left me there by myself because most everything was automated. And when she left, the power went out again because and this is my connection, at least what I think it is, my theory. I got super nervous because I'm like, oh my gosh, whole TV station me by myself. I know it's automated, but what if it stops? Blah, 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 blah. And then the power went out, but of course, backup generators, it didn't really, go out, but the lights did, came back on. And then that shortly after that is when I killed the reel to reel machine, which was great for my first day.
Yeah.
After that, the next place that I worked at, honestly, I mean, and even with that company, we switched buildings. I never really had any other issues going to like the other or the new building or whatnot.
Cool.
Nothing ever happened there. But also I was like old school at that point. I'd been there forever. I was very comfortable.
Right.
And the very next job that I had, first day, the entire 32,000 square foot building lost power, but it was very common for them to lose power. But, I was snickering to myself because it was one of those things where at that point, I had the expectation. I'm like, I wonder if I'll make the power go out today. I wonder if this will happen. And sure enough, it did. And it's always after, like, the introductions are made and they kind of set you up and they finally give you your space and you get to kind of, you've amped yourself up, and you kind of get to sit down, and it always happens then. It never fails. It's always the thing that's the common factor that I've noticed. And then my last job, which I started just recently, about, I guess it's been about 10 months ago. Two things happen. So, the floor I work on is the top floor. And so it's not like you want to climb those flights of stairs, but I'm terrified of elevators. And to be honest, it's a combination between claustrophobia and can I make an elevator go out? Well, so that day they had 3 banks of elevators and I chose a particular one and got up to my floor. And, you do the whole welcoming, the orientation. And I was really anxious about this one. And when I finally, once again, about an hour later, after I got settled down and I was introduced to other key people, et cetera, and I was finally in my space, the power went out and the emergency lights came on and my boss came out and he's like, well, that has never happened here. Now, granted, they've only been in that building for a couple of years, but it's one of those things. It happened again. And I just kind of smiled and I was like, well, hey, but that came on pretty immediately. But then I go back out into the lobby and the elevator that I had taken to my floor had gone down, and the main security guard at the desk, I was like, elevator down? He's like, yeah. He's like, it's really weird. I have been here for a while and I've never seen that happen before. And I turned around, it was the elevator I came up in. So I don't think I'm just it's weird because I'm on the fence about it. It's like, I don't think I'm at the center of that, but it's a little weird. It's just like, how many times, what kind of when it starts to become a pattern, and then, the watch batteries and then I had my first EKG about 2 months ago, and I have never had an EKG before. And they had the little portable machine and they put it on me and they couldn't get it to work. And I kind of sat there and snickered a little bit, but I didn't say anything to my doctor. And then they went and got another pack and they were like, what the heck? We just did an EKG. Why is this thing not working? And they went and got another pack and did it and it was fine. And so I haven't mentioned anything to any like medical professionals, but I come to find out just talking in general, my aunt apparently has been a battery killer since she was a child and has never been able to keep a watch on a battery going. So that's my long spiel. But yeah, I mean, it's more of just a pattern and it's just weird. I don't know. I would love to have some sort of test done. I don't know if it's like I have a high EMF reading. I definitely feel energy and feel vibrations, either negative or positive. But
I can tell you, just based on all the years I've known you, you definitely have a high energy level.
Besides the spastic talking high energy level. But that's the other thing, internal. But what's crazy is that when I feel my most calm, I'm assuming come across that way. But inside, for those moments, I feel super, super calm. And then it kind of reverses itself. And that's when I've noticed. But it's almost like when I'm projecting to be extra, extra calm and very professional, the power goes out. Like it's one of those, you know what I mean? It's one of those situations.
So it's like a reaction to your trying to hide whatever amount of anxiety you should be feeling, especially on like a first day of work or getting your first EKG. You're doing your best to hide that nervousness or anxiety, and the power says, nah,
Exactly.
we'll just do
It's like,
this.
exactly. It's like, no, it's going to release in some form or fashion. So let's knock out the power. It's just like, yeah, sure, we'll knock out the power. But yeah, so I mean, it's just one of those things where you think about it and you actually sit and think about everything that's happened. And then, of course, the other weird stuff that I've had happen in my life. You're like, okay. But we're all energy. So, I mean, that is, a scientific fact. We're all energy. Right. But I even pick up weird vibrations, and it's there's no gray. It's black and white. I pick up weird vibrations from people's possessions and furniture specifically, not clothes. Like I can go into a thrift store and try on other people's clothes or whatnot, doing that, no issues. But I can tell you, I've actually had ringing in my ears. I have had complete and total visceral reactions where it was like, get out, get away now, with furniture at one time I was at the Green Chair Project not too long ago with my cousin, and there was a trunk. It was a piece of furniture. It was a trunk. And I swear you would have thought that I wanted as far away from it as possible. And a lot of times, but I love doing that stuff, like at flea markets. But a lot of times, I would keep that inside and just not say anything because it's weird. As in that chair's making me feel funny. That's a little weird. But I do. But I've had ringing in my ears before. For some reason, mirrors seem to be a big thing with me. Now that I don't get. I know they, supposedly they can be a portal or whatnot, with different types of belief systems and whatnot. But mirrors are a weird thing for me.
So when you say a weird thing for you, do you mean like similar to the furniture, you have a energetic reaction to some that might be
I do,
holding on to something?
Yes, but the thing is, it's not negative all the time. That's the weird part. There's certain things where it's like, I want to have this. Something is telling me I need to have this. And of course, price dictates if that's really going to happen or not. But I feel like either an extreme need to be near it or an extreme need to be as far away from it as soon as possible. Get me out of here. Get me away from it. And I'm certainly not touching it. Where the other thing, it's like, I'll just stand there and just touch it and just be like, I don't know. That's the other thing. I'm very tactile, and I've noticed that too. But even with the furniture, and it's definitely an energy thing. I can feel an improvement in my mood, or I feel like I'm connected to it somehow, even though of course it's not mine, or it's the exact opposite. So that's my weirdness. Enjoy. I enjoy it. Hey,
well,
as long as I would stop knocking out the power. That would be great. I wish it could be the opposite, where I could give power. That would be great.
That would be great.
That would be great.
People would be in line to talk to you. But okay, so going back to the knocking out the power thing, have you ever tried doing meditation or breathing exercises before you go into work on that first day? Have you ever tried to do anything to maybe control it just a bit?
All the time. And I do that daily anyway, because I do have generalized anxiety. I just do, which actually didn't develop until I was almost out of college. Before then, I never really had any form of anxiousness. I was always very, very, very laid back, where it kind of turned a little bit, where I started really internalizing my energy, I guess, and not expelling it like I used to. And so breathing, meditation, even listening to binaural beats, listening to different hertz, all of that. I do it sometimes multiple times a day, depending on if I need it. I try to do it at least before I go to bed. I try to do it when I wake up in the morning. The morning one doesn't happen all the time. But before I go to bed to release everything, I've also been doing the tapping method. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. Where you have the tapping points. Definitely look it up. I think it's called the tapping solution, I think. But you basically, you tap on different sensory points with your upper body from your head to your chest. And there's different, almost like pulse points, but they're not true pulse points, but they're sensitivity points. And you basically speak a mantra out loud to release the energy. Those help me more than anything. And if I am working, listening to the binaural beats, I can't listen to music anymore when I work, I've noticed, because I start getting way too much into the music and start becoming distracted. So
I get that.
I've started listening, like, I have to, like when I sleep, I have to sleep with white noise on or a fan or both, the combination of the two. It's very rare that I can fall asleep without that sound. I do have trouble sleeping, but I have tinnitus. I think it's from percussion and being on the end of a drum line for a long time when I was a teen and not properly taking care of my ears. And then of course, me in concerts. So I think that's what that comes from, but I don't know. I've had, the buzzing in my ears, and when I get really stressed out, sometimes it can tap into a vertigo sensation with me. And I've had issues with vertigo for the past 10 years off and on. And they have no worst. It is the worst. And I don't really hit the nausea. It's more of the stability and the ringing in my ear. It's always on my left side. And it's the turning of my head. And they've done the adjustments with like the crystals inside my ear. That didn't help. They thought for a while they were going to put a tube in my ear. That didn't help. But I've noticed that if I'm having super, like, I can't like control my anxiety, I start having the ringing in my ear and I start having vertigo, one or the other or both.
Wow.
So I don't know how that's connected, but it's got to all be connected somehow because it's my body. So
yeah, everything's connected.
Everything's, and then beyond that, the connection that everybody else has, because I do believe in that very strongly too, the whole energy connection with everything.
Oh, yeah.
And I can ground myself. Now that's another thing. I do have to ground myself and I can actually feel it. And I hate to be barefoot on dirt or the grass because for whatever reason, the bottom of my feet are just super sensitive. I'm not one to walk barefoot, but inside, of course, all the time. But I on purpose go and stand in my backyard and literally ground myself to center myself. And that works.
Yeah, I was going to say whatever works.
Whatever works. I know. Whatever works.
Especially like as an empath, that is the first thing I'm thankful that I learned back in my early 20s when I was hanging out with psychics, because once I learned how to be able to do that quickly, it made all the difference in how I experienced the world around me.
Yeah. I tend to want to release, because I'm definitely an empath, and anytime I definitely want to release whatever I take in. That's always how I deal with it. But the grounding technique definitely helps. I either have to, but I don't know why. For me, for some reason, if I felt overwhelmed in a negative way because I was taking on somebody else's emotion, I would want to go and like dance it out, or go to a concert and listen to, or just listening to music. I would want to process it that way. I don't naturally gravitate to going to ground myself, even with like breathing or whatnot when that happens, which is very bizarre to me, considering I do enjoy doing those things. So.
Well, yeah, it just goes back to whatever works for you. I mean, over the years, you learn how to, like you said, how to process it, what is going to make you feel better the quickest. And
exactly.
Sometimes it takes other people giving you ways to cope, and sometimes you just kind of stumble on things that work and repeat it, and it continues to work, and that just becomes your thing.
Yep, and I'm constantly reading or listening to podcasts or other different types of speakers about those different topics. Either processing other people's emotions, yourself, setting up boundaries, because I have issues with boundaries, which I think is connected to the whole energy thing as well. Because it's almost, I feel like almost like a lightning rod in a way.
Yeah,
And
I could see that.
then, I feel like a lightning rod, and then it just has to release in some way. If not, I internalize it, and then it will release itself. And it's a good thing. I'm a very happy person, because if not, it makes me think of like Storm and X-Men. It's like,
right.
So, but
only
no.
Instead of like causing lightning, you just cause the lights to go out.
To go out, no big deal. We don't need a light. It's okay. It's
okay.
It's like, Terri, hey, can you shut out the light? Sure.
I love that the kids in the neighborhood figured that out.
Oh my gosh, it was hilarious, because they actually thought that if I could knock out the street lights that were closest to our houses, that our parents wouldn't look out and notice that it was dark. And I'm like, but I'm knocking out the street lights. Of course they're going to know it's dark. Yeah, but the rule is that when the street lights come on, just playing with, a little wordplay there, as, kids tend to think of. So, but yeah, we used to do that all the time.
So have you had any other experiences you want to share with us? It doesn't have to be electronic related.
I mean, I have. So, but no, I have, and some have been around you. And then I think the last one I had, I actually called you on the phone. I did. I called you on the phone, and I was like, hey, so what are you doing? Do you want to come by here for a few minutes? Because this just happened. And you're like, well, guess what? I happen to be around the corner. I'm like, shocking. Come on down. I have.
That was fun.
That was hilarious. But I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I ever even asked you at our original station, that hallway.
Yeah.
With you and I mean, everybody on some level had an experience one way or another.
Especially those of us who were there like late night shift.
At 3 a.m. in the morning. Oh, yes, that was, yeah.
Yeah, and we had a coworker who actually saw something walk through the area, and like he did a double take, and he came in to say, I just saw this, and there's nobody else in the building, and I was like, yeah, you did, I'm sure.
And considering who that person, and considering who that person was, that was the true test for me. It's like, yep, it's real. Okay. I know what I've experienced. I know what this person's experienced, and this person, but no, it's real. It's real. There was one thing, we had a whole bunch of phones stacked up. Like they were changing out the phone system, and they were lined in that hallway. And also in that area, that was where we would go, towards the beginning and have like our meetings. Remember when they had it glassed off before they changed it to the news portion?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I hated that place. I hated it. I wanted to get out of that area so bad. I just, every time I would step back there, it was like, nope, turn around, nope, go. But then like our little, I guess we can call it an auditorium. It's not really what it was, but the room that was in the middle, that space, I felt perfectly fine there. I felt fine in, like in the central part of, where we ran just everything. But that hallway and that space back there.
Yeah. If I ever had to put anything on our boss's desk back in that space, I would, especially, if we were working the like midnight to 8 a.m. shift, I would creep in there, set it down, and run like heck out of there, because I just could not stand to be back there.
Yep. Absolutely. But no, I mean, I've had tons of experiences. I mean, and as far as I know, my first experience was at the Mordecai house when I was in the 3rd grade, 8 or 9. I think I was 8. And I was descending the staircase, and I felt dizzy, like I was going to truly pass out. And I felt like just super immense pressure, and I felt cold. And I remember holding onto the banister, going down and being like, ugh. And something told me to turn around. I turned around and I saw what I would call sparkles. But then again, I'm also remembering this as an adult from the point of view of a kid. And I'll never forget it, because my teacher, she grabbed me because I started doing the slip, like, ugh, thing. And she grabbed me and she was like, she's like, are you okay? Are you feeling okay? And I'm like, I, did you see that? Did you see that it was like a silvery, glittery, shimmery thing? And one of the tour guides overheard the conversation, and she came up and started asking me all sorts of questions and asked my teacher if it was okay to ask me questions about what I saw. And they were writing it down in a book. And I'm like, I felt all official, like, ooh, I've seen something. And still, I remember at that time, though, this is the crazy part. I remember at that time not connecting it to any type of, oh, it was a ghost or, oh, it was a spirit. It wasn't until like afterwards. I mean, they ended up having to have my mom come and pick me up. Like, I didn't get back on the bus and ride
That's
back.
pretty
Like,
serious.
yeah, it was pretty serious because I was apparently as white as a ghost and still could not get my equilibrium straight. And then saw that. And then later on, my mom kind of told me what it was. And then I investigated it later. And, back then investigating it was not as easy. It was one of those like,
Right.
oh, a book in the library, or, you talk to people, there at the place, and they told me without trying to scare me that there was one of the ladies there who had passed away was sometimes seen, and she was either seen on the staircase or near her piano, which I didn't see anything near a piano. And I remembered that. And that, I remember getting like the shivers, and then I thought it was super cool. So I was okay with it. I don't know. It was weird. Like, I just remember it being kind of like, oh, so I saw a ghost. Okay, great. But still part of my mind was, wait, am I getting, my mom was also like, are you getting sick? I wonder if you're getting sick, and, that's what happened. But my mom's very open to stuff like this too. So she was just kind of like, well, okay. My teacher was completely freaked out, but she was a young teacher too. So I try and think of her with, think of her with a lot of empathy as an adult, where I'm like, oh my gosh.
She herself had probably not experienced paranormal until that point. And then it's like, oh, I got a kid passing out on me on a field trip.
No. And the crazy part is that my mom was a teacher at the same time, different school. So my mom actually had to have, at that time, she was a teacher's aide. So she had to leave to come get me, which was kind of an interesting experience. So I remember feeling weird about that too. And like, well, why is she coming I'm fine. And they're like, no. And I'm sure it was a thing where it's like, just in case I was sick or had a fever or it was coming down with something, they didn't want me back on the bus with, being, patient zero with the rest of the class. So, but yeah, that was my very first one. And I've seen stuff like I've had relatives pass away. My aunt in particular, it was actually when I was in college. She had passed away in her chair at a very young age. She was only 43. And we had gone, and it was in her chair at my grandparents' house. And that night, I was very close to her, and that night, of course, we're all in shock and everything. That night I slept on the sofa like I normally would in the living room right next to her chair. And, I was tucked in somehow. Like we used to, like, I don't know if you used to do this as a kid, where you would take the sheet and almost make like a little tent over the back of edge of the sofa, like the back support.
Yeah.
Where you're almost like under a tent. And I had something or someone tuck me in, and I woke up, and mind you, at this time, I'm in college. I'm a woman, I can drink alcohol at this point. And, I woke up and I just had this feeling of like, I had been super stressed out, of course, and really upset the whole day, and also trying to take care of my mom and my grandmother and everything, because it happened very suddenly. And I felt super just like peaceful. And I felt like I was half awake, but then all of a sudden, half awake, half asleep. And then all of a sudden I was awake, and I saw her, like, just like her, and, in her chair. And she got up and she walked, and I kept on hearing popping. And her ankle, and this is so weird, her ankle used to click when she would walk.
Ah.
And I heard popping, and that was the weird thing. And so my brain, like, and this happened so quickly, but it just stands out to me because I was like, I went into a complete cold sweat. Then the peace disappeared. I went to a cold sweat, and I was like, out loud, I went, aunt, blah, blah, blah. And I didn't hear anything. And then I felt very peaceful again. And then I was like, all right, I felt safe enough to get up and kind of in the half dark in my grandparents' house, kind of check everything out. And my mom was asleep. My grandmother was asleep. It was just us ladies in the house, and that was it. And there you go. I don't know. And then I don't know. Gosh, I was trying to think about other things. I was trying to do this chronologically, and it didn't work out. I know you're shocked at that.
Yeah, but it's totally fine.
But like, you know, and then the only orb I've ever seen in my entire life was with you. Or I should say, you weren't with me. You were in the bathroom doing your hair. But when we were getting ready to go to a wedding at your apartment, and a purple orb with almost like like I could not come, you know, it wasn't translucent. It had like dimension to it. Floated towards the corner of the ceiling. I remember your windows being open and the light coming in, and me standing there just kind of freaked completely out, because I was like, okay, now that is different than something I've ever seen before. And then I remember yelling at you down the hallway or something, but I don't remember what I said to you, unless I just told you. I was like, do you see purple orbs in your house or in your apartment? And then I remember some of your stories, you know, that you used to tell about that whole place. I think you had a ghost cat. Didn't you have a ghost cat for a while?
Yeah, and one of them, I lived in 3 different apartments in the same building, and all 3 had different things going on, but one of them did have a ghost cat.
But the purple orb it freaked me out just for a moment, because it was one of those things where you kind of rub your eyes, and I remember not wanting to rub my eyes because I had spent a very long time on my makeup because I was trying to impress a boy. And I'm standing there and I'm like, wait, what? Is it a reflection is it the window? Does she have a crystal hanging in the window? And I'm like, no, that's 3-dimensional. No, that's, you know, and I didn't wear glasses at the time. So it was, you know, my 20/20 vision. And it was just so weird. It had almost like, I hate to say, a jelly consistency to it, but it had that type of, I don't know, that's how it wasn't that solid, but it had that kind of feel to it. And it just went towards the ceiling and in the corner, hung there, and then disappeared. And I was like, okay. So you're ready to go. Let's go.
In that apartment, that stuff never surprised me. Usually she showed up as blue, but so the purple part might have been a bit of a surprise. But that you were not the only person to see something like that in that apartment.
Doesn't surprise me.
It was an interesting place for sure.
Yeah. But I mean, I've always had, I mean, if this tells you anything, I've always had a fascination with it, even from just being a young kid. Like, you know, I wanted to dress up as like, you know, Casper the Ghost when I was younger, or, you know, I always liked the scary stories. I always wanted to be like a witch. Then as I got older, I figured out what a banshee was, I think in the 5th grade, and no one knew who I was. And everyone kept on calling me a bride, and it really offended me. And I was like, I'm a banshee. I'm a banshee. And so I've always had an interest in it. I mean, if it tells you anything, the only day in high school that we decided to skip, you know, do a true honest to God, we're playing hooky day. We went to Shoney's for breakfast, of all places, for their buffet. And it was a small group of us. And then we decided we were going to go to the Cameron Village Library and investigate ghosts. And that's exactly what we did. And then one of the girls that we were with, because we used to carpool in the morning, one of the girls that we were with, she said, hey, do you know that there's a very, very, very old cemetery behind what was then, I think, the YWCA on Oberlin? And we were like, well, let's go, you know, real smart, right? So it was kind of a misty day, you know, it was kind of, you know, cool and misty. And we went back there, and it was the creepiest graveyard I've ever been to in my life. I didn't see anything. We did have the same person who told us about the graveyard did step into a sunken grave, which was kind of scary. And her leg went down almost to her knee, which was really freaky because, you know, last thing we needed was an emergency visit on the day that you're skipping school. You know, we thought we could defend ourselves, I guess, but no, we went to the library. What were you researching? Ghosts, spirits, psychics, mediums, you know, anything we could find on the occult, basically, you know, anything that you connect, you know, all good stuff. Nothing dark, just the, you know, the good stuff. But, Yeah,
Just so you know,
it's
there is a rumor that that library actually has its own ghost. So at first I was thinking, oh, they knew about that back then?
look, it would not surprise me because I do remember, honestly, I remember when we were sitting there looking for books that we were hyped up though, because we were like, ooh, we're almost on a ghost hunt. Ooh. Um, I remember sitting there and I'm like, are you guys kind of creeped out being in here? And we all kind of equated that to just being anxious about literally being up the street from our high school and skipping school in the
Right.
library. Hello. I mean, literally, same
Such
street,
rebels.
such rebels. And I remember doing that. Otherwise, I've had some weird stuff that last company that I was at, that huge space, you always try to take into account, reflections of glass and shadows and the way the lights are set up. And I always try to logically process it first. But I took you for a tour. I mean, you can tell what you said, but God,
Yeah.
that's the last thing I've had happen to me. And that completely, that has to be the most visceral experience I've ever had. And it was shared with my coworker who is a, not a skeptic, but close, pretty like right on the fence. And
Yeah.
that was weird. That involved technology. That involved her phone. And she wasn't even touching her phone. And her phone started playing a song, and I can't remember what the words were, but it was related to what her and I were talking about. And of course, at first we're like, oh, NSA, what have you, spying on us, ha ha ha, I hope you enjoy our boring conversations, well, whatever. And it was such a tiny office. I mean, you've seen it. It was the size of a closet.
Yeah.
And we had these shelves above it, and we had some items, including a couple of clipboards laid flat, wide surface. It's not like they were, tilted on end or anything. But when her phone started acting up, I accused her at first of playing a prank on me. I'm like, all right, come on. And we were kind of pranksters around there anyway. And I'm like, come on. She's like, no. And the way she looked, I could tell that she was completely freaked out for real. And I'm like, put your phone down. Put your phone down. I was like, turn it off. Just turn it off. Reset it. Maybe it's just some sort of glitch. I was like, did you listen to music earlier? And she's like, I did, but that was like 6 hours ago. And okay. And so she turned her phone off. She turned it back on, and she sat it down, and her and I started just asking questions, which of course, is the right thing to do when you're having that type of experience. We thought we were fine.
Yeah.
It's daylight, no big deal. And she actually asked, she's like, is someone here? And her phone went, and I'm not joking, it was a song, and it went, yes. And her and I slid our chairs back and stood, flung up, stood up and went, what? And I started fussing at her. I'm like, are you sure this is not like our main chef? I'm like, are you sure it's not this person pranking us? Are you sure you guys haven't messed with anything? You guys haven't? And she's like, no. And her and I were standing there because we needed to be in the office. We really couldn't leave. Like we were, but we really wanted to. And then the next thing that happened was the clipboard on the top of the shelf literally flew off the shelf and landed in the middle of the room. And her and I screamed at the top of our lungs and went flying out of that room and just stood in the middle of the whole venue. And we're just like, nope, I'm not going back in there. She's like, I'm not going back in there. And we went out in the back and just kind of relaxed. And I immediately called you.
Yeah.
I was like, and I know you checked it out. And there was like another corner that we had, like issues in, and there was another space. And everyone there, the whole staff, and of course they would be there at all hours, had seen things. And it was such a huge space with different lighting. People just were like, oh, no, we've seen stuff. But we used to have power issues all the time. I equate that to the way the place was built. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
But, we had stuff happen all the time. But that, I have absolutely no explanation for that. And no one was pranking us at all. That is confirmed, because I was still like, all right. We went back to the kitchen. I'm like, all right, who set up some sort of weird spring-loaded action, what have you? And then it's like, let us see. I'm like, we're not going back in there. No way. And it became super cold. That was the other thing. Oh, that's what it was. Our office had no circulation. Like it would get so hot in that office because they had routed the ductwork improperly. And so we didn't have even a grate in the door to really have true circulation even outside of that office. So it was like being in a closet. And I will never forget how cold it got in there. And I don't remember when was that? It was the summer, wasn't it? Wasn't it like the early fall or summer? It was like, it was like September of 2019, I guess.
Yeah, it was easily September or October. It wasn't very cold outside for sure.
Because I left there the end of September. So yeah, it wasn't cold outside. Okay. I do remember that. So it must have been like early September. But
yeah.
And we just left it and we were like, no. And we went back in and got our stuff and whatnot, and then I took you on the grand tour. But that's the last thing that's happened to me. But I mean, I've always had things. I don't know. I've always had the interest in it. I have this thing with cardinals, which I think you might remember. They're my totem animal. That's an absolute. And I have just accepted that as a fact. And I even have pictures, which is crazy to me. I have a pair of cardinals and they've had a couple of babies and the babies will hang out for a while. But it's the same pair of cardinals, same mated pair. They will greet me sometimes, and it's usually a day that I'm having a hard day when I'm coming home. They will be on my roof waiting for me. I have a bird feeder out in the back. I've also had the male cardinal land on my lap more than once when I've been like, just upset about something. Sitting out on my back porch, and I've had him scare the crap out of me and land on my lap. And my front tree, the thing that's been happening since quarantine, since all this started, and of course my anxiety's been off the charts during this. Because my extroverted self trapping myself in my house is how it is. And the front, I have this beautiful tree right out in the front, and it's a crepe myrtle. And anytime I'm sitting on my sofa, one of them will come and be in that tree. Every single time during the afternoon or the day.
So do you find that comforting?
I do. And in the past, like going even back to, I'd say my mid to late 20s, when I was having some health issues, I would have them fly in front of my car all the time. And I think that's when I brought it up to you, is in like, what the heck does it mean when a cardinal flies in front of your car? And it would always be connected to some sort of change that happened that day that wasn't maybe overly significant, but something would change that day, either one way or the other, that would affect me in an overall manner. And it wouldn't be something like, like a warning or a good omen necessarily. Sometimes it was, but not all the time. And so it happens to be all the time. And it doesn't matter what car I'm in. And it's never any other bird besides cardinals, which makes me want to kind of investigate cardinals even more so to see, do they like to fly in front of cars? It's like...
I don't know. I'm not sure that I've ever heard anybody specifically say cardinals love to fly in front of my car, except for you.
It's always
that doesn't
cardinals.
Mean it doesn't happen.
It's always cardinals. It's never any other bird. And trust me, I pay close attention because I don't want to hit a bird with my car.
Right.
But I can always tell, and it's always a male cardinal. Always. Every single time. My grandmother, my dad's mom, was a collector of cardinal figurines and whatnot. Cardinals were her favorite animal, et cetera, et cetera. Of course, being in North Carolina, they're everywhere. I have also grown to have an affinity for cardinals just based on that, because anytime they're around, it's definitely a comforting thing. It really is. And so people have bought me different cardinal stuff. Like I have a cardinal in my kitchen, things like that. Not a real cardinal, of course, but
right.
Jewelry, what have you. So I have like little tokens that are cardinals, that are like almost like little good luck charms and whatnot. So, but I think that's it. I'm trying to do a complete emptying of my brain, but I don't know. There's just been a weird pattern. I mean, I'm open to it. That might be something too. I mean, I've had other members of my family have experiences especially on my mom's side. They're very open to it. I've had even my brother. Well, my brother and I had one time of actually seeing a UFO, which we joke about it to this day. And he saw,
So,
of course, aliens in our basement, but I don't know how to contribute that one. The way he described them really completely freaked me out, though. So,
so with the UFO, like, how old were you?
um, oh, how old would I have been? 13, 14, maybe? I would say 13 or 14. I could probably date it because of what we were doing. So it was near Christmas time. So, of course, you're used to having Christmas lights all over the place and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
My brother and I were notorious for trying to find our birthday gifts, and our parents were pretty good at hiding them. But that year, they decided to put them in the back of my dad's car. And so my brother and I snuck out like after dinner one night. We were just like, oh, we're just going to go look at the lights, the Christmas lights in all the houses, okay, all right, be careful. But what we were really doing was snooping for presents, because I wanted to see if I got I wanted to see if I got my caboodles. That
Ah,
should date it. I wanted to see if I got, that's why I think I was about 13. I was like, I was either 13 or 14. I wanted to see if I got my caboodles. That's all I cared about.
did you get one?
I did. So this is what happened. So we walked, we snuck to the driveway, which was not very far from the front door. And we opened the back. My dad had kind of like an SUV, back then. And we opened the back, and sure enough, they had this little cover thing that you could kind of pull over to hide stuff that you would put in the back. And sure enough, there was my caboodles, and I was all kinds of excited by that. And I'm totally distracted. My brother hasn't even started looking, and I'm like, oh, there's your so-and-so. It was some sort of like remote controlled car or something. And I was like, oh, we were super excited and feeling guilty, but not really. And he's smacking me on my arm, like hard. And I'm turning around like, what? And he's like, what is that? And I turn around and look up, and where our house was, we were kind of at the bottom of a big curved hill. So the way he was looking was towards the top of the hill, and there was a house that sat there that kind of faced catty corner on a corner on that hill. And we look up there, and there was a triangular shaped dense object that at first you kind of went, oh, that might be, a Christmas thing, or it might be a plane, because we were in the flight path of RDU. So we, had planes all the time. But it was a triangle. It had density to it, and it was above the house, but it was too far above the house for it to be any type of Christmas decoration. And it wasn't low enough, if that makes sense, from the viewpoint to be a plane, and it wasn't moving. That was the other thing. And it was just hovering. It was just hovering, and it had it had a blue, a red, and a green dot at each corner of the triangle. And it was almost like an isosceles type triangle. And it just stayed there. And I'm like, are you seeing this? Are you seeing this? And he's like, I'm the one that smacked you. Of course I'm seeing this. And then we're shushing each other because we didn't want to get busted, hearing us yell. My mom was very sensitive to hearing, like, are your children in trouble outside? And we're standing there, and I'm like, what is that? And he's like, is it an antenna? Did they put an antenna up with like well, that's weird. The red and green, I'm like, it's not a plane. It's not moving. And I'm like, okay, so you're seeing this? He's like, yeah. And he's like, you're seeing this? Yeah. And we just kept on confirming it. And then it went out.
Like, what do you mean went out? Disappeared?
The lights just went out. And and there was no substance anymore. It was weird. And it wasn't like a cloudy night or anything. I remember it being a bright night with stars, because that was the excuse that we used. Oh, we're just going to go out and look at the stars and the Christmas decorations and blah, 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 blah. And, back then we used to do that type of stuff, Yeah. We're just going to go hang out on on the driveway. Okay. No big deal. And we were spying for Christmas presents. So, we weren't being honest. So then when we went back inside, we, for some reason, felt the need to immediately confess that we found our Christmas presents, because I think we were freaked out. And that we had taken my dad, we took Dad's keys, and we went, we saw the Christmas presents, but we also saw something else, because I think that was just like, we felt the need just to confess everything, because we were just so confused as to what it was. And it was kind of on the borderline of being fascinating and, oh my God, what the heck is that, at the same time. And we told them, and my dad's reaction was the best. He was like, yeah, aliens probably. And he just went on about his business.
Wow.
Where my mom was like, You found your Christmas present? What? She didn't really pay attention to the whole alien thing, But connected to that, my mom's brother was before he passed a handful of years ago. But my mom's brother, sweetest man ever, was convinced that he was abducted when he was a teenager, and he had a complete and total personality shift. And we don't
Wow.
have any type of, like schizophrenia or other different types of genetic based, um, mental disorders or diseases that run through my family on that side like that. But, and he didn't hallucinate or anything. He wasn't doing drugs. We do know that for him. He was very much a like, no, type. It was like beer. That was it. But he wasn't drunk or
Yeah.
anything like that. And he was convinced that he was, abducted by aliens. And from that point forward, his entire, according to like every member of my family, that his entire personality completely changed from that point forward. And I don't know how old he was. I would say he would probably be about 15, maybe, when it happened. But I mean, his complete everything changed, personality, everything. He,
For like the better or the worse?
well, he became very hippie-ish, if that makes sense. Like he was pretty much like a good student, like, just, went to school, did what he needed to do and whatnot, not a rebel or anything. He then became very, laid back. We'll just leave it at that. He just became super laid back.
Okay.
But I don't know if that makes sense. But he became very much like very hippie-ish at that time. And it was a complete personality change where he was very guarded. And then after that, he wasn't anymore. But he was also scared of the field. So, and my grandparents were on a pretty expansive piece of land over there. And my grandparents' house, and my mom actually lives there now. It's still there. And my other aunt, the one who has the same thing with the watches, she
Yeah.
has seen stuff out there in the backfield. That doesn't make
Stuff.
sense. That I know. I'm
Like
not being very clear.
in the
Am I?
sky or in the.
In the sky, hovering. And I mean, I'd love for you to talk to her. I mean, she might actually be a good person to talk to because she has some crazy stories that relate mostly to alien observances. I'll leave it at that. But it was a like football type shaped, silvery, too low to the ground, floating in the backfield, and couldn't be explained. It wasn't a cloud. It wasn't. I mean, she got into her father's truck and drove back there, and she was a teenager at the time. And she has seen it on more than one occasion. And so, of course, that happened. She was the baby of the family. So when she saw it, it was many years after my uncle had his experience. But like even my brother, and he won't mind me telling on him because he shares his story all the time. But my brother he went into our basement. He was maybe I'd say 15 or 16 again. We had a sunlight basement, and it was after the tornado hit our house. So it had been rebuilt and whatnot. So it wasn't the exact same house, but he went into our basement and swore that when he walked downstairs, he saw a 3-dimensional silverish, almost what I would call a gray, alien. But what was weird about it, and this is when he told me this, and the way he looked, and the way he acted, and my brother's sometimes too truthful for his own good. Like he just needs to, I look at him sometimes. I'm like, no, just don't say that. No. So he doesn't lie. Like I'm sure he lies, but he's not one to like make up grand stories. And
Right.
he was so freaked out by it. It had a teardrop shape, but when it was facing where he was, and he said it was nothing but a void that went to the floor of where the mouth would be, almost like a teardrop. And when it turned to the side, it completely disappeared. And so he kind of ran down the stairs to try and see around the front, and he caught a glimpse of the shimmer again, but then he didn't see it. And it freaked me out because to me, for some reason, it made logical sense, as in like, oh, so if they turn to a side, or they keep, themselves facing
In
a certain
profile.
way in profile, they disappear. Okay, that's freaky. I'm completely freaked
That's
out now. Thank you. But
that's pretty creepy.
it was pretty creepy. But I always joked around with him as in like, you're doing drugs now, right? This is what's happening. This is the direction you're going in now with your life. Okay, that's awesome. Like, but at the same time, I'm like, all right, now I'm completely freaked. But he was not, as far as I know. I would be very surprised if he was. But yeah, so he's had that experience. But that's the hodgepodge of the experiences. My dad's side hasn't really had anything. They're very religious though. Not as open-minded, which is interesting, I think, to compare to, in juxtaposition to compare the two sides of my family. But
Yeah.
my dad, I don't know if he's ever seen anything. My mom hasn't. But she never questioned anytime we said anything. And her and her brother were very, very close. And I think she believed him. Like there was just,
Yeah.
she believed him, and that freaked her out. But that's really it. Honestly, I can't think of anything else. But I don't know. The thing about the power and the emotional connection with technology. Once again, I don't short out cell phones. My Fitbit, I do short out my Fitbit. I've now replaced it twice. I cannot keep a Fitbit charged. And it does have but it has, of course, I have, what is it? The kind that takes, I don't want to give the name. But it has where it takes your pulse, of course.
Yeah.
So I've
Yeah.
often wondered, is that why? Is that what's going on?
Well, you wear it on your wrist like you would a watch, right?
Of course, and left hand on my left arm. But I've had other watches since the whole making the batteries die. Since middle school, I've had other watches, and they've been battery operated and have been fine. Which it's like, okay. And then I switched to the wind up type of almost like the steampunk looking watches, and then went straight to my Fitbit. And I didn't even think twice about the Fitbit, but I've gone through two of them, and it's dead right now, sitting on my dresser. Its little container.
It's not doing you any good there.
It doesn't. I know. I haven't been out as much as normal. But I would wear it religiously, and it would just not hold a charge. And the first one, I didn't even think, honestly, about it possibly being related to me, because, like, hey, hadn't connected the dots. But then I replaced it with the second one, and the same thing started happening. And I was like, okay. So I did an experiment, and I let a friend of mine wear it. And she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. This thing's perfectly fine. It is perfectly fine. She's like, the charge has lasted for like a good, like 3-4 days. And she was walking all over the place. And I totally tested it with her. And it worked fine for her. And then like I get it back, or I take it back and I start wearing it again, and it dies. I'm like, okay. So now it's doing that thing that sometimes like iPhones do with their battery when they get to a certain age, that you have to charge it, and then you can only wear it for like a couple of hours and then have to recharge it again. And that's not how it's supposed to work. That's not how that thing works. So, but I don't have any issues, knock on wood, with like I said earlier, computers that, that I know of, or laptops, or never had any issues like at our job with all the heavy equipment and the crazy stuff that we handled.
That's good.
So, like, that's good. Except for before I aired the Super Bowl one day, and the entire switcher died, and then our gracious engineer at that time, his solution worked perfectly fine in a pure panic, and got us up and running again very quickly.
We had a very smart engineer, that's for sure.
Very smart engineer, yeah. But yeah, no, I haven't had any other. It's weird because it doesn't seem like it's anything in the middle ground. It's always something extreme. And it's definitely tied to when I am feeling either my like most excited, but at the same time anxious combination, feeling the need to keep it inside and be very, very controlled and slow and calm and look at me, I'm perfect. You just hurt me. Yay, on the outside.
Yeah.
And so that's the only thing I can think about. Is that's what makes sense to me. But I do have crystals, and of course I smudge, even though I try not to, I've been investigating that recently, about whole smudging practices with different types of sage and whatnot. And I have that Native American family connection on my mom's side as well,
Mm-hmm.
which some members of my family have actually taken ancestry tests to get that back. So I'm curious. I'm going to try and save up my money to take that too, because I'm curious to see if there's a way to connect even deeper to that side of the family. But had friends, been to powwows and done, sweat lodges, and I've seen some crazy stuff. Crazy stuff. But that's it, really. Crystals, I do feel vibrations from crystals. It's more of a yes or no thing, a positive or a negative thing. And I do believe in them, even though I know some people think that's kooky, but I always have, and for decades I always have at least one type of a crystal, or I collect rocks for whatever reason. Like I'll see a rock in the yard and feel drawn to it and pick it up, and it usually has some form of quartz or something in it.
Especially around here.
Especially around here. And I've done that for since I was a kid. I mean, like, my mom was always finding rocks in my pockets and being like, oh my gosh, if you're going to pick up rocks, please, please, please take them out of your pockets before they end up in the washer. It's like, I'm sorry. I apologize.
Why is the washer making that noise again?
Clunk, clunk, clunk. But yeah, and I still do it. And now I'm a little bit more selective about it. And I'm a little bit more focused with it. And I'm actually trying to get into that a little bit more, just because of finding it interesting. And also because I get something out of it with an energy, related sense. But I don't know. Hopefully I won't start a new job for a very, 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 very long time, or maybe ever again, depending on circumstances. And if I'm working for someone else, that is, or if I start my own company, hopefully I won't blow everything up the first day. That'd be, really kind of sad and distressing.
You'd have a cool story.
I knocked the power out my first day. I will say this though, one other thing. Now the transformer behind my house blew during the week that I was most upset, when my air conditioning system went out over the summer. I woke up to the transformer blowing. I don't think I have anything connected with that, but they were confused as to why it blew. They had no reasoning behind it. And so in my brain, I was laughing at, just me, myself, and I were laughing, going, well, I've been incredibly upset about not having an AC with it being 100 degrees in my house for the past 4 days. So, and I was at my limit, and it was the transformer literally right behind my house. So it's like for the whole neighborhood. So yeah, but I'm not claiming that one. Not fully. I'm not claiming that one. So
I'm picturing you with your fingers shaped like a little pistol blowing out your
pew pew. Pew pew. I love how the sound of my guns up like a pew pew pew.
You watch too much Star Wars.
I do. I swear, I went to really, really bad phaser sounds. Really, that's really bad. But no, I don't know. I still have the street light thing happen here. Like I was doing it the other day just out of boredom. I was walking my dog outside, and I was staring at the street lamp that's at the corner, like right across. And I was staring at it, and I was like, just focusing really hard. I'm like, go out, just go out. And it went out. But there's sensors and stuff on that too. And there's tree. I mean, like I put enough stock into it to where it's like, sure, why not? But at the same time, I'm like, do I think I'm all that powerful? Probably not. But you know what? Who knows? Who knows? I'm not like zapping anybody with laser eyes or pew pew or, anything like that. But
that's good.
That's good to know. Don't have those type of powers, I'm not, starting fires or, shattering light bulbs or making them light up or anything. So those would be useful. But no, this is more of just like entertainment where I'm like, okay, all right, well, that was interesting. Oh, look, I made the power go out again. Yay. Go me.
Sometimes when I walk into a room that has the motion detector lights and it comes on, I'm like, I am all powerful. Just kidding.
It's like, me wave my hands. Ah, look at you. The green light is now on. I actually do that with my alarm system. When I walk by it, I do like the little Jedi motion where I'm like, turn on. Because the little green light will come on and it'll light up as I'm like, I'm ready to set it. And I do that all the time because I am going stir crazy inside my house by myself so much. But, hey, that's a whole nother story for another day. But I don't know.
It will be okay, I promise.
It is. It really is. It's okay. But no, I don't know. It's very interesting. I don't know. I would love to hear other people's experiences. That's what I would like to do, is actually hear from other people who've had those same type of experiences with making power go out or having an effect on even the street lamp things. I mean, I found a little bit on the internet, and I know there's a name for it. I can't remember the name.
So,
there is, that would be the most interesting.
Because this interview is gone as long as it has, I will probably. It's fine.
It's only 8:20. You know me. You knew what you were getting into.
I did.
You knew what you were getting into.
I mean, if I didn't want you to talk, I wouldn't have said, do you have anything else to say? But
I can see it now, though. You're just like, I've got to edit this now. Oh, God.
No, actually, I think I'm going to take what was going to be a single episode and turn it into a two-parter.
Two? I'm a twofer?
So you will be my first two-part episode. Because the researcher that I am interviewing for this topic actually has he had a lot to say, and he did his own scientific study at the Rhine Research Center about this topic.
Oh,
and
I can't wait to hear that.
And he actually had a really cool story about poltergeist PK type of investigation he did that was related to. So I want to make sure that your stories all get in and his stories all get in. So this will probably be my first two-parter. Congratulations.
Twofer. Who knew that Terri could fill up 2 episodes or an episode and a half at this point. But no.
I do appreciate you coming on and sharing your stories, though. It's interesting and always entertaining.
Hey, just be thankful that every time I've ever stood beside you when you were running the light board, that nothing ever happened.
I would have blamed you immediately if it did.
I love how I never even really connected that until just now, honestly. Probably because I've never had that happen. I've never had that happen at a concert.
That's good.
No, that's because that would be
pretty sure you'd be banned from every venue if you did that.
I think the universe knows better than for that to happen. I think the universe was like, no, let's not do that. We don't need a blackout or a brownout anywhere near.
Well, plus I think if it's you let loose at concerts, like you enjoy yourself and you're not trying to hide anything.
And that's my theory.
It's a different situation.
Well, it is. And that's my theory as well, is that once again, I'm definitely I have to release it in that extroverted way to feel peaceful, or it builds up. And that's the problem, is when it builds up. And then I have to shake my limbic system physically, either metaphorically or actually physically, to get it out. And
that sounds like an old, really bad disco song.
Shake your limbic system. Oh my gosh. Yes.
I might start editing out my bad jokes. I'm not sure.
That was close. That was almost a dad joke, but almost too groovy to be a dad joke. I don't know. I'm just proud of myself that I didn't curse, because I think that's the reason I like curse words, is because it's a release of energy. I swear. Not that I'm there's a time and place.
Right. And I appreciate that you didn't, because I am trying to keep this PG. I'd have to start beeping things.
I can control myself to a point. Of course, I can control myself. So it's okay. I was reading to kids only a couple weeks ago, so no, I'm able to control myself. So
that's good. We are professionals when we want to be.
Give or take. It depends on the day. So,
Well,
but
I'm gonna go ahead and say thank you very much, and just
you're
this has
welcome.
been fun. So, thanks again to Terri for sharing so many great stories with us. It was a fun conversation and held a few surprises, even for me, and I've known her for decades. And thanks to you for listening. If you like the podcast, please give it some rating love on your favorite podcast app, share it with friends, and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. If you have an idea for a show topic, remember it needs to be able to be studied scientifically. You can fill out the contact form at peeppodcast.com. That's PEEP podcast.com. Remember, that stands for People Experiencing Everyday Paranormal. If I can find a study about it, I'll be happy to use it. You can keep up with the show on its Facebook page, facebook.com/Peep Podcast. Don't forget the periods in Peep. Thanks again for listening. Stay safe and be well.